Well, hello, and welcome back to the Mystic in Training podcast with me, Melissa Amos, your host for this beautiful space that we are creating and cultivating together. Now, in the last episode, we were introduced to the contemplation, because who doesn't love a contemplation of when we step along this path, when we start to become something different, when we start to question who we are and where we've been and what we've been doing, and we're starting to move through the mud, or the analogy I gave as moving through the jungle, that we can often feel really lost. We can often feel like we're alone. We can often feel like, oh my God, is my life just falling apart? And what I felt as I was moving into this awakening, if you like, was a little bit broken. And the invitation that I gave you in the last episode was just this contemplation of what if it isn't that you're broken? What if it is that you're becoming? And in that becoming, it takes an unraveling. It takes a step into a new direction. It takes a step into a new version of you. And sometimes when we're moving into something else, we can't always bring along everything that we've had. We can think of this as a diet, right? If we're wanting to begin to eat healthier, we can't just carry on eating everything that we're always eating and then add the flax seeds and add the avocado and add the pure pressed olive oil. We need to start to take things down, which things that might have felt really familiar, things that might have been really comforting, things that might have felt safe, but they weren't doing us any good. They were leaving our system sluggish. They were maybe giving us a moment, a dopamine hit, a nervous system relaxation, a sense of everything's going to be okay. And on the other side of it, it can leave us feeling slow or tired or heavy or not ourselves. And so when we're making these changes, it often means that something needs to change, something needs to disappear, something needs to fall away, or something needs to transmute. And that's okay. And it's really scary. It's not an easy path. But let me tell you this, as somebody who has wandered, wandered through it, sometimes seemingly aimlessly in some direction or another, one foot in front of the other, that you do reach these plateaus, you do reach these viewing platforms, you do reach these new normals where you realize, and if you dare to look back, you look at how far you've come, you look at the path that you've trodden, you dare to look back and you see actually maybe how you've cleared the way for somebody else, and that you've moved yourself further, greater, onwards, upwards, towards more of you. And yes, that sometimes means that you're leaving parts of you behind, and that part is super scary. And that part, however honed in your intuition is, that part still feels hard. That part isn't gonna save you from fear. Because something that I've realized, and I get asked the question a lot about intuition. And often when we are on this journey and you hear someone like me say, well, follow your intuition, it won't lead you wrong. And then someone's like, well, hold on a minute. My intuition got me, my whole life fell apart when I started to listen to my intuition. For example, when I learned Reiki all the way back in 2008, I left my job. Literally 3 weeks later, I left the job that I was in that was paying me really well, that had all the benefits, that gave me the fancy schmancy car that sat on my driveway and all of the status that I wanted in the world. Yet 3 weeks after I had my first Reiki attunement, I knew it was time to go. And you know what? That was scary. You know what? I was terrified. You know what? I was like, oh my God, this cannot be the right decision. And I was lucky that I had people around me that saw that this was even though it wasn't the logical choice, it definitely wasn't the logical choice. I took around a 50% pay cut. It was the choice that I needed. And it was terrifying. And even when I moved into the next position I went to, even then I was like, what did I do? But it led me to other things. It led me to people that I met. It led me, in fact, to do my NLP training. Who knows when I would have done that had it wouldn't been for this. It led me to connections. It led me to a new set of skills. It led me to so much more. And in that moment, I was questioning and wondering and felt like I'd given up everything for nothing. But I look back now where I'm doing work that I love, where every single day I feel inspired and alive. And I just know, I'm going to say 85% of the time, I just know that this is what I'm meant to be doing, and this is who I am, and this is how I serve, and this is my purpose and my sense of self in the world. This is my I am that I am living. And had I not have made that one choice that felt hard, that felt scary, that did not make sense, what trajectory would I have gone down in? Now, if you'd have told me then, well, Melissa, if you leave this job now, you will eventually be training people around the world, having most incredible clients, helping people achieve these amazing breakthroughs, having qualified in spiritual psychotherapy, having had a best-selling book, having hosted first of all, a joint podcast, and now my own podcast, and owning the brand Mystic in Training, I'd have been like, not sure anyone would listen to me. And it might have actually put me in so much fear and so much resistance and so much doubt and so much, no, that's got to be a load of baloney. Maybe that wouldn't have happened. However, what did happen in that moment was this sense of knowing, this sense of there must be more to life than this. And that was the question that I think Reiki opened me up to. And that was what changed the kind of questions I was asking myself, rather than what's the point of all of this, which can feel a bit like victim. What's the point of all of this? Why am I here? Why do I love the things that I love? What is it that I'm meant to be doing? What lights me up? What fires me up? And for a long time, I've been a geek. I love learning. I was always reading. My grandma was a hypnotherapist, and she had this incredible bookshelf full of hypnotherapy books and NLP books and books around the mind. And whenever I went there, I'd go and just have a little look at what was there on her bookshelf. And I started reading this even as a teenager, even when I was at uni doing my degree in business. I was always interested in the psychology of the human and these philosophical discussions that came out. So it's always been there. And then when I found myself in a job that was very male dominated, that was all about results and looking out for yourself and all of these things, these passions, they didn't really go away, but they got put aside. And my intuition, or there was a part of me, if you like, that was giving me these feelings of this isn't right, this isn't enough, there must be more, because I wasn't walking on the path that was going to activate my greatness. This was part of the path, but that part of me had run out, should we say. That path going off, there's a fork in the road here, and I can either continue to go down this route and have the status and have the security and have the position and have the nice car and have the good money and have the stress and have the anxiety and have the hope that my brakes might fail on my way to work one day, or move into the unknown. And it was this sense that at the time I didn't really know what it was, but now I know it to be my intuition, the part of me that's connected to the divine, that was going, hey, give this a try. Not give this a try because then this will happen, and 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 then this will happen. Trust me, I had 100 of those then this will happen voices, and most of them weren't good. But it was take this next step. And this was how it panned out. I walked into the showroom and I was like, oh my God, I need to leave here. That was this feeling. And I went to the reception desk, and the poor receptionist that was there must have heard me say this 100,000 times. And I'm like, I need to leave. And she's like, Melissa. And the local paper was on the table. And I was like, I'm going to open the local paper. And I literally opened it up for no reason, but there was a feeling. And I opened it up. And right there, the page I opened it on was a full page advert for a job. And I was like, I'm going to get that job. And it didn't make sense. There was no information on there. And I was like, this is so different to what I'm doing. It was quite an entry level position. And I was like, I had my sights on moving my way up that dealership. And here was this other opportunity. And I didn't know. But in that moment, I sent them the email. And then I had the interview, and then things started to progress. And one of the scariest things that I ever did was tell my boss, who was also my friend, my line manager at that time, that I was leaving. And I was like, ah! And I don't think he believed me. Honestly, I don't think he believed me. And I got pulled up into the ivory tower with the big boss that I was convinced hated me. He tried to get me to stay. And I was like, oh my God, now what do I do? He's like, well, if you want to work 4 days a week so you can do your training, you can do it. And I was like, but still, there was this version in me that was saying, go, now's the time. We're at that fork in the road. Now's the time. And thank God I listened to it, because I left and I went somewhere else. And I'd love to say that it was all happily ever after at that point, but it wasn't. There was more trials, there was more tribulations, there was more feelings of being the victim, there was more feelings of not knowing what was going to happen. This was all that around the same time that I had my first child, and then my second child, and eventually my third child. And it's stepping into this unknown, but it was one by one step at a time. And the more I was doing Reiki, the more I was placing my hands on my body. And if you don't know what Reiki is, it's this universal life force and this energy healing system, if you like, that you can place your hands on and you can receive and you can connect in with that energy that creates everything. And what it did for me was it opened me up more into this trust of the unknown. And the more I was doing this, the more I was tuning in, the more I was feeling something, the more I was starting to receive the right actions, the right questions, the right thoughts, the right decisions. And no, I didn't listen to it every single time. And yes, it took years really for me to truly hone that in. Remember, as I shared in the last episode, my brain was always what I prized. My brain was always the thing that was like, Ma, listen to me. Don't listen to anything else. Close that heart off, Melissa. And so it was a becoming. It was an unraveling and it was a becoming. But what began to happen is I would start to see these images. I would start to have these wishes, these whimsical thoughts might come in. And I used to say to my husband, every time we got to go out, and after we had kids, it wasn't that much. I'd be like, one day I'm going to be training people and I'm going to be sharing all this stuff. I'm going to be this amazing coach. And maybe I'll be on stages and doing things and sharing about NLP and this little bit of energy work. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then I started to connect with some incredible authors, especially the Hay House crew. And I'd be so inspired by them. And oh my God, imagine. I would love that. In fact, I even remember getting ready for school one day, listening to the Virgin Radio breakfast show was what I used to listen to with Chris Evans. And I would love to have my own radio show. This would be amazing. Right. But they were these visions. They were these things that felt a lot bigger than me. There was no path to, well, you go from here and you go to there. It didn't seem, it felt just like a dream. But little did I know that these weren't just random thoughts that came into my mind. These weren't just feelings of grandeur. These were clues as to what it is that I was aiming for. And I couldn't have left Mercedes and gone all the way to stage and start talking about spirituality and intuition and angels and and the Akashic records and the things I speak about now. There was a journey that needed to happen. And quite frankly, if the stage was the following day, I probably would have run back with my tail between my legs, asking for my fancy car back. But lucky for me, there was a separation. There was a path. And so that question that I get asked, well, what is the intuition? And I think we'll discuss this more over the coming episodes, but just for this short contemplation here in episode 2, it's that feeling. The intuition is often a feeling. It can come in words, but it's quiet. It has this quiet quality. It has this sense of unshakability. It's not insistent, although it's always there. It doesn't give you all of the reasons, and it certainly doesn't give you the 12-step program to get there. But it gives you this quiet nudge. And the more you listen to it, it's not even the louder it gets, but the more you listen to it, the more integrated it gets. Because there is a caveat to this, that when we don't listen to it, it can get quite loud. And let me say this, I don't think it's the intuition that's getting loud. I think it is the internal battle that's happening between your intuition and then the other parts of you that are craving safety and craving comfort and craving what was known. And so it's like this battle happens as your spirit, your intuition starts to strengthen. The other parts, the ego parts of you are like, no, I will not let go. This is not safe. What are you doing? And so it can start to shout up in that way. And or as what happened to me when I was doing this work and on paper everything was as it was should be, yet I felt unpurposeful. I felt like this can't be my life. I felt like I was broken. I felt like there was many days that I didn't want to be there. And I don't just mean in the showroom. Well, I just wanted to go home. And I was sick a lot and all of these things. So our body responds from this discordance between our self, our big S self, our highest self, our spirit self, our intuitive self, and then the other parts of us that are all just grappling to keep things the same. And one of the biggest lessons I learned, which I know we will speak about over the coming weeks, is putting the big S self in charge, putting the divine self in charge, putting the soul self in charge, and then bringing all those other parts to the table because they all have their purpose. They're not bad. They're not wrong. And so the contemplation that I leave you with today is, if my intuition were speaking to me now, what would it say? My intuition was speaking with me now, what would it say? And just grab a piece of paper and just start writing. If my intuition was speaking with me right now, what would it say? And just start writing. Brain out the way, no thought, just write. And then come back. Let me know. I'd love to hear what you discovered and whether you've done this before or not, what today your intuition is asking of you. There's another really important step. Read it back to yourself out loud and let me know. And if you love this episode, make sure you subscribe, make sure you download, share it with anyone that you think might be helpful. I would love to hear what's landed and what's resonated with you and what you received from my little tidbit of sharing my story. And I will be back soon. Oh, and if you feel like you need a little bit more courage in your life, I have this incredible resource which I would love to gift you, my listeners, called Courage Rewired. And it is a hypnotherapeutic resource that can help you land more into intuition and rewire that fear so that you have the courage. Now, in the next episode, I'd really like to talk about this balance between fear and intuition. So let's see what goes on there. And I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode of Mystic in Training, the podcast with me, Melissa Amos. In love with you all. Bye for now.